and started. This is a live stream. As some of you may have discovered, I have been talking more and more about monsters, and again, today is one of those days where I will talk about monsters because I like to talk about monsters, and I'm going to try to do that as much as I can, but still provide you with the stuff that you like, because even though most people don't watch these particular videos, I get it. Mr. Rex, AJ Pickett, HowtoDandD, Dungeon Cast, they all do a very good job with these sorts of things. So it's probably not the place you come normally for monster lore. I get it. But I'm going to put up a poll. My suggestion to you is don't respond straight away. This is a very peculiar monster, the Focoid. It's not the sort of monster you normally come across. So grab some food, some drink, get comfortable, and I'm going to talk about one of the most peculiar Spelljammer monsters you can ever include in your game or would ever come across, frankly. I think this is, I mean, there are a lot of them, but this is really, really odd, this one. So let me just make sure I have all of my bits and pieces ready, and we will go into this. Transition over, and I think we've got most of it ready. A drink of water. Make sure I press the record button, because I have forgotten to do that a few times, and I have to get into the habit of making sure to press record. Anyway. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Specifically, I have selected a monster to talk about. This is a Spelljammer monster. It's called the Focoid, of all things. Like, it's literally 3 lenses, and that's when it's focusing its full power on something. But normally, it is just 3 spheres connected together. That's the monster that you encounter as you're traveling through space. Like, it's a very strange thing to actually include in your game. I totally understand it. If you're like, Fred, we don't get it. That's all right. That's why I'm here to talk about the monster and give you the lowdown on this thing. It's actually very hard to find information on this particular creature just because it's just so out there, and it's an old monster. It's advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So the Focoid is a severe or extreme navigational hazard, like many things in wild space in the astral sea, but generally it's usually near a bright star or the brightest stars in wild space. It needs to be quite close for a number of different reasons, which I will explain. The Focoid manipulates their gelatinous bodies, and there are 3, as I said, spheres into a lens or a series of lenses, and it focuses intense light onto an object that it can choose, and then it will essentially roast the enemy or ignite rigging on a Spelljammer ship or just burn the Spelljammer deck. And it's at will. Like, it can do it all the time if it wants to. In fact, in many ports, you'll find that adventurers can receive a bounty. So you actually receive money of up to 500 gold pieces for every Focoid carcass you can bring in. That's how there's a bounty on these things. They need to be eliminated from the wild space realm. Focoids consist of, as I said, 3 very clear, transparent, gelatinous spheres, and they are joined into a short chain. All Focoids are so close to transparent that it is extremely difficult to see them unless they are moving against like a star field. If you've got something that helps sort of break them up a bit, you may be able to pick them out. But the chances are you'll never see them until it's too late. In which case, the refraction of the starlight, if they are moving past a star field, gives the observer a vague notion of where they are. So you won't even know exactly where they are. Their exact location's very hard to actually establish. A Focoid is especially difficult to see between the observer and a bright star, obviously, because you got the light from the bright star shining at you. Not surprising, that is where the Focoid favors positioning its attacks. That's where it wants to be, between you as the observer and a bright star, so that it can actually force extreme light in your direction, basically like a laser beam. There is a small mouth at one end of the Focoid, which is not really very good at doing much of anything other than eating things. Until the focoid's last meal is completely digested, the food can be seen through the creature temporarily, rendering it visible. So if it's still digesting stuff, you might actually be able to pick it up. Each spherical action of the focoid's body can be manipulated into various shapes, so not just a flat lens. In the focoid's combat posture, the spheres actually flatten right down into extremely sort of, it's a bifocular lens that, and with 3 different lenses connected, it strengthens the light. At other times, the body sections of the focoid can be elongated if they want to do so. They can be squashed or left as just spheres. So it can change that. These shape variations may indicate some kind of communication too. Like there's a theory that the way that the focoid actually shapes its different spheres is actually a communication style or method between other focoids. Or it might even indicate a change in the mood of your focoid. So what does this thing do in combat? How does it kind of operate? A focoid's mouth is completely unsuitable for combat, so you would not use the mouth of a focoid to actually attack. The creature's only means of attack is by focusing light through its lens-shaped body, and that's how it actually does, it injures and kills things. Obviously, a focoid must have a bright source of light in order to attack, which means they tend to hang out near something that produces a lot of light. The focoid is therefore seldom found away from any kind of fiery body. If you were to find a focoid that isn't near a star or an exploding gas cloud, then that would be quite unusual. On rare occasions, the focoid does travel in deep space, and in this case, I suppose you can now consider it, whether that's wild space or you consider it the astral sea, possibly. It cannot attack, and therefore must only, well, it usually goes unnoticed. You probably wouldn't be able to see it in the astral sea because there just isn't enough starlight being produced to actually have it show up. Each of the focoid's 3 body sections can become a lens, and they can fire at separate targets. So it can actually use each lens, which potentially means it could fire at 3 different targets since there are 3 body sections to it. Each section of the focoid can fire per round. Now, neither a focoid nor the focused beam of light it fires is easily seen. So even the light that it produces, that it fires at you, it's kind of it's invisible. It's not like Star Wars or Star Trek where you see this energy beam blasting towards you. A typical encounter with the focoid opens as the creature's attack, usually in the 1 or more rounds, while the confused target sort of wonders why they are catching on fire or taking damage and attempts to get a handle on its position or figure out what the heck is going on. You might find this is the sort of thing where you wind up getting a mysterious attack on you and you don't actually know where it's coming from. All missile attacks against a focoid struggle to connect. So that means if you're using a ballista, a big huge rock, or arrows, bolts, it doesn't matter, any kind of, even magic, it's going to be difficult to connect with the focoid. Melee attacks are not effective. Unfortunately, it's one of the worst things you can have is a monster that isn't affected by something. So if you use a close quarter melee attack, they're not affected, okay? Since a focoid is relatively easy to see up close, that seems strange, doesn't it? But you can still, up close they're easy to see, but you're still not going to be able to do very much to it. That's very unfortunate. A focoid can use its light focusing weapon only when it's between a star and the target. So if you move out of position, so you're not in the right position to be targeted, then that actually changes everything because it's no longer able to do any kind of attack against you, and its mouth is not a viable tool. If the focoid is maneuvered out of position, it just simply can't fire. The focoid then usually elevates evaluates that situation, moving off if it can, um, particularly if the odds are against it. It's the sort of creature that will actually retreat. And it will press the attack if it thinks it will get a meal. If it doesn't think it can get a meal out of this attack, then it won't pursue it. In either case, the Focoid out of position is not firing and therefore impossible to locate visually. So it is a real hassle for a dungeon master to present this and not feel like you're a bit of a heel. Why am I talking about this monster? You must be thinking. Well, there's always a rationale behind everything that I do, and we're getting there. The habitat or society of your Focoid. Focoids are creatures of space. They live and breathe and they die here. Like that's how they operate. They don't live anywhere else. The Focoids are never encountered in groups. You will only ever find one, possibly two. If you're very lucky and they're actually in the production process of reproducing, you might find three at the most. Focoids have apparently not discovered the advantages of coordinated hunting or attacks. Like they don't sort of join together in packs. The Focoid attack, they only do so to gain food. They're not malicious in any way. They don't have any animosity towards anybody. They're only or any particular race. All they want is to eat. However, most other spacefaring races and creatures have tremendous animosity towards the Focoid just because of how difficult they are to deal with. And just because they're just a huge menace when navigating, because trying to actually find them and eliminate them is so difficult. The ecology of the Focoid is a little odd. A Focoid is unisexual, and they reproduce, usually requires the union of up to 3 adults. You have to have 3 adults for it to work. Each Focoid grows a new gelatinous sphere, so instead of having just 3, they wind up with 4. And when the 3 combined, they join and create a new individual Focoid, and those additional spheres that they create on their body become the new Focoid. And then they separate. So once that new Focoid is born, all participating Focoids disperse, and then you have a new Focoid. So it's a very unusual reproduction method. You're probably wondering, like, did this actually evolve, or was it created by wizards? We do not know. And Focoid have to eat meat to actually get nutrition. Like they can't eat vegetables or anything like that. They can't go on a low diet Jenny Craig program. It wouldn't work for them. So yes, they are a carnivorous creature. So how do you defeat a Focoid? My advice to you is stay away from heat, light, fire, burning gas, and big bright stars. Like that's probably the best way to deal with them, particularly when you're confronted with a why are we getting hurt or catching on fire and we can't see where it's coming from. It's probably a Focoid. Now, how do you incorporate a Focoid into your adventure? This is going to be a good one. The Focoid is a really difficult monster to include into any adventure unless, okay, a Spelljammer ship gets very close to a burning star. And so what I'm going to say to you is this is one monster you may well, it probably would be very sensible never to include it in your game. Have I just made a video on warning you about a monster you should never use? I feel like I might have done that. So the publication history of this thing, you'll find it in the Monstrous Compendium. That's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons for Spelljammer. It's got it in the appendix, basically. It's one of those things that got created. I don't know where they got this from. Did they get it from Star Trek? No, they certainly didn't get it from Star Wars. They had to get it from somewhere, because usually these things are created from existing IP and other properties. But it is a bizarre creature, and it's certainly one that I recommend you just don't use. Now, I'm hoping this was useful to you in some way. I don't know that it necessarily was. I always still find the Focoid a hilarious and very entertaining and very sort of sobering creature. Like, it's a very interesting how it operates. So it's very tempting to want to use it. I would very much like to know, would you use this in your game? Would you not? Have you already used it before? Or are you just completely confused as to why I even did this in the first place? It's all right. I would like to thank my patrons and everybody who's been watching my live streams and my videos. Thank you very much. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I'm not gone. Just let me just bring back my face. And I expect this to do extremely poorly in terms of videos. Uh, Probably for obvious reasons. But I had to talk about the monster because I'd started collecting information on it. It's surprisingly very difficult to find anything on it. I do actually have a live stream I'm doing in about 40-ish minutes that will be covering the Unearthed Arcana survey that is now alive and available for those of you who are interested. So I thought what I would do. Hi Shiner81, how's it going? So I'm gonna do this I'm gonna be really quick about this. I will talk about Spelljammer while I'm here, okay? I've stopped the recording button, but we're still live. And so I'm going to have a look at this, and I can totally understand. Out of the 4 people who have responded so far, 50% of you are undecided. I think you may be regretting having selected that option. Like, this is one of those monsters where it's hard as a dungeon master not to come off as being a complete heel or ass by using it. And it's kind of unfortunate because it's quite an interesting and bizarre creature, but also a giant pain in the butt. My suggestion, if you're going to use this thing, is that have it show up and do something weird, like attack, and then it just disappears, because that's otherwise you're just going to wind up roasting everybody on the deck of the Spelljammer ship, or burning their ship into bits, because it could take them forever to get to wherever it is if they can ever figure out where it is. Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Now, as for the Spelljammer Adventures in Space, the product that Wizards of the Coast has put out, I've been trying to get a hold of it. Like, I really have. And it's actually proving to be quite difficult to get it. And I don't understand why, because I had seen that it was available for purchase at the store, or the local brick and mortar store that I normally buy from. And then suddenly it vanished. So that's got to be an import supply problem going on there. So I haven't been able to acquire it. It should have been in my hands sooner. Normally, when it comes to doing reviews, I will do book reviews in my off season, which I feel like the off season is around December, January, February. But I won't wait that long, because I know a lot of you are waiting for that. I'm also probably not going to do it until the camera and almost all the gear is shown up, until I can actually flip through and show you the book as I talk. There are 3 books in this set. Hi Derry, how's it going? It's a magnifying glass. That's right. You are attacking them not with just 1, but 3 magnifying glasses. Like, is that a strange monster or what? It's a very strange monster. Now, because the Spelljammer box set comes with a Dungeon Master screen, which I really couldn't care too much about, and it also comes with a 3 books that are all hard covered, I would probably cover each book separately. And because some of them are more for Dungeon Masters and some are more for players, then I would break it up. You know how I normally do this. There's usually a live stream each week on the Friday for me, Thursday for you, if you're in North America. That I go Dungeon Master Player, Dungeon Master Player, and I just alternate back and forth, okay? So my intention is to do that. I'm going to have to purchase it from Mighty Ape by the looks. I will make arrangements. I'm pretty sure my brother-in-law has an account with them, and I'll give them some money, and I'll get it in my hands, okay? Monsters of the Multiverse I do have, so I can review that at some point. I just haven't done it because... So Dylan. Hello, Dylan. I am DM, but do you have any tips for monster combat? Scribe bad English. Oh, sorry, bad English and Swedish. That's right. Do I have any tips for monster combat tactics? Yeah, I do. I actually have a whole set of live tutorials that I'm going to release very shortly. And but I will not just discuss the monster, I will show you with dice and miniatures and a map. So that's coming. My advice to you is don't have your monsters fight to the death. I'm going to give you one tip. Like, don't have monsters fight to the death. Have them run away. Like, most monsters don't fight until they are utterly destroyed, unless it's undead. Usually, stupid undead, they don't care about being destroyed, because the evil spirit that possesses them, the evil energy that possesses them, will just go and possess another husk. It doesn't need to worry about the skeleton body. It doesn't need to worry about the zombie body. So that's the only exception where they would fight to the death. Most of the time, most creatures don't do that. It's probably the simplest thing. It's like, have a point where you feel like it's going to run away. So one of the problems of doing a book review and doing a book review on Spelljammer, I can see there's been a lot of contentious comments with regard to that. Morale equals frequency. Yeah, well, you can roll for morale, or you can just decide when it's appropriate for the monster to leave. I find that rolling for morale has worked for me, and sometimes hasn't worked for me, and other times I prefer to just choose, doesn't make sense, it's time to run away. Yep. So the problem of a book review is I find they cost me so much money and there's hardly any return. But I know that people like them, particularly if I show you what's in the book page by page as I flip and talk, which is my preferred way of doing them, because then it gives you an idea of whether you want to buy them. And because Wizards of the Coast has been producing some very poor products recently, I think they've stretched their team way too far. A lot of the stuff is people just not picking up. And I get it. I do understand. Like I said, I'll still get the Spelljammer book, and I will talk about Monsters of the Multiverse. I just need to get all the technical stuff at my end sorted out, because I've got a new monitor coming. Hopefully that's a 4K monitor. I've got camera mounts. I've got lights coming. I've got a cam link, 4K cam link, so that I can use all the cameras in 4K, not just one of them. So it's all becoming quite complicated and expensive, but I'm getting there. Plus, I haven't actually finished absolutely every single live class that I had put together. And don't need to worry about the Dungeon Master prep stuff. Like, we will continue with that. They just might not be 4 a week. I could not do that. It will kill me. Okay, for those of you who are on Patreon, I can assure you I will be uploading those files up onto Patreon as soon as I get a chance, probably later in the day. Today. All right, so hello, Spirit Wolf. How's it going? How are you doing? What do you got here, Dylan? Thank you so much. I just started D&D, and it's hard with monster combat. Thank you. So this is one of the reasons why I decided I needed to have some tutorials covering Dungeons and Dragons monster combat tactics. It's coming. I can assure you it's on its way. It's just not quite ready. And I'm not going to run it until I can use a battle mat. On my desk right now, there are 3 tripods. There is just and a microphone. There's no space. I have to make sure I have space to do all of that. And my brother is helping me sort that out. So it is coming. I do already have some videos that cover some of the basics on some monsters. You could always go and check them out if you wanted to. What else? In Sweden, it's really hard to get D&D in, what's that? Figures. Sweden figures. Yeah, you can't get figures, and the starter set are hard to get. But I got it, and you're learning. Yeah, so this is one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize, particularly I know the North American YouTubers and even subscribers aren't aware that actually to get access to Dungeons and Dragons products in other parts of the world is really hard. The only reason I can get them here in New Zealand is actually because of Australia. because Australia has a really good relationship with North America, and it's essentially an American company. So therefore, everything that gets shipped to Australia then gets shipped over to me. Now you might be saying, well, yeah, but you can buy it online. Actually, buying it online is astronomically expensive. Like, it wasn't before, but it is way, way more expensive, to a point where, people in New Zealand aren't that wealthy. I mean, AJ Pickett, who's a New Zealander, I mean, he makes as much as I do in 4 months. Like, his income is significantly more, yeah? And I probably make more than the average Kiwi. Like, so that's saying a lot. So it's a very different sort of kettle of fish. So yes, I can believe you. Sweden, it could be very difficult to get that stuff. Miniatures are always a problem. Yeah, dairy figures are overrated personally. A stone and black and white picture. Okay, yep, rough it out. Well, let's look a lot. This is why I tend to use a lot of theatre of the mind, but I do like miniatures and maps, and but I have had to pay an awful lot for them over the years. I don't actually buy that much now, and for good reason, because where would I put them all? You found it easier to do combat as 2 groups. Okay, all right. When you buy a figure, it's maybe cost 60 just to get to Sweden. Yeah, so it's not just freight cost. Sometimes it's the taxation on these products. Sometimes the taxation is really heavy. But anyway, do not fret. I will eventually get hold of the Spelljammer box set and talk about that product and show you everything. Okay, and I'll do it. Make sure it's in 4K so it's nice and crisp and clear so you can see everything. 60 Kronos or dollars. Okay. Use BattleTech. I get it. But yes, like I said, I will start doing some of the book reviews. The only book that I will not review is Journey Through the Radiant Citadel. Not because it isn't a good book, but because I'm sick and tired of hearing about people's comments regarding for it and against it. It's the only reason why I just won't touch it as a book review. Is just because the people on the extreme side of for it and the extreme side of against it, I feel are insane. And I just don't want to be part of that. And I've already been stung by it recently, and I don't want to do that again. So screw it. I won't cover it. Okay. As I said, not a reflection on the quality of the book, just a reflection on crazy people in the audience, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to go and get set up because I have to go, and it's in about half an hour. I'm going to go through the survey for the Unearthed Arcana character origins. And I highly recommend that people go and check that out. So if you haven't gone to D&D Beyond, go to D&D Beyond and go and, sign in if you haven't signed in, or create an account. Go download the packet and fill in the information. Like, most of you will probably already be using a lot of the stuff that they are suggesting. It's not like it's completely new. You know what I mean? The reality is that they have provided concepts that people are already using. Like, even myself, I think somebody was saying, are you play testing this stuff? When I said, I don't actually think that when people respond to the survey, they're going to be responding in terms of they have play tested this stuff. Because a lot of them are just going to be commenting whether they like it or not. But we'll get to that soon enough. Nuts. I just use actual figures, dates. Yeah, raisins, apples, lollies. We used to use lollies. Problem with using lollies as monsters is they get eaten, right? Snack and die. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I've given you a link to D&D Beyond. Go in there. It should be pretty obvious where the playtest material is. You just scroll down and you'll see it says 1 D&D rules, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, go get the information on it, fill in the survey. You only get 2 weeks and then it's gone. Yeah, absolutely. So, I at this point, I don't know if I'm going to be able to run the Lost Mine of Phandelver Ruins of Thunder Tree tutorial, which is I've put off for a week, and I may have to put off for another week because my brother's coming in to put more gear into my office, and that's happening tomorrow, which is when I would normally do all of my prep. So I do apologize if you're having to wait longer. If you are a patron and it's really messing with you, you can always message me on Patreon, and I will make sure that at least the notes go to you. But even if I can't do that, on Patreon, you will find the video tutorial already edited waiting for you. You just need to type in Lost Mine of Phandelver in the filter in the search bar on Patreon, and go Lost Mine of Phandelver, and it will give you all of the videos that relate to that. Okay, and you'll find it right there. Thunder Tree has been covered, so you're all good. For those of you who are not patrons, well, yeah, you'll have to wait until I get a chance to do it. Dalton, I like I like playing as DM. It's fun. Well, I play and DM. Almost everybody in my group is a DM and a player. I thought D&D was boring first. Well, I thought it was stupid actually, myself. But when I started it, it was really fun. Yeah, no, I agree. You play 3 times a week. I don't have time to do 3 times a week, but then I run a YouTube channel. Okay, so I am going to finish up here. I'm going to say thank you very much for hanging out with me so I could talk about a monster, because I actually prefer talking about monsters than anything else. Even if this is a really strange monster you probably won't be able to use in your game. At least I warned you. Anyway, hey, thank you for hanging out with me, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night. Make sure to come and check out my channel in about half an hour, and we'll move on to the next thing. That will give me time to recover, maybe put some food in me, and do the next thing. And thank you to my patrons, everybody who's been watching, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.